Bill Henshaw here again, Constitutional Crisis Channel, and I'm revisiting one of my favorite subjects, which is the non-existent 14th War Amendment. Those of you following the videos know exactly what I think about that and why. But I want to discuss briefly here, if in fact I get what I want and we get what we need, and the court says, yeah, you're right, amendment doesn't exist, there are going to be matters to be settled when that happens. But trust me, any of you that owe your citizenship to that amendment, especially the blacks who it was designed to give citizenship to, will be much better off without the amendment than you ever were with it. I mean, all you got there was special corporate privileges. There were basically no rights whatsoever there. And as a matter of fact, to paraphrase a well-known statement from an earlier infamous decision of the Supreme Court, you could just as easily say for 14th Amendment citizens that they have no rights which the de facto National Socialist government is bound to respect. And they don't. There's nothing there. That's just the way that is. So those things can be changed. And even if you were temporarily at least relegated to the status of aliens and or even statelessness, you would still have rights either in territories, if that's the status that they currently have, or once the 14th Amendment is declared unconstitutional, now you're in states, you would have much greater status and standing to get into judicial courts where you could invoke protections of the provisions of the Constitution of the United States that you can invoke, especially Article 1, Section 9 and 10 pursuant to bills of attainder and ex post facto laws. And there may be a variety of rights available to you under the 9th Amendment, which sets aside various undefined rights, to the citizens who created the Constitution. And many of those would apply to you. That's not an easy subject to discuss at the moment. But trust me, we need to be making more arguments. I think the court's only ever decided 1 or 2 cases under the 9th Amendment. And we need to make them do a much better job of that. That's a reservoir of wealth for us to do it. So yeah, there'll be some temporary downside to it, no question about it. But when you realize you had nothing to start with, well, what the hell? You have nothing to lose here and everything to gain. That's reason enough to do it, reason enough to see things my way, even though what I advocate is certainly not politically correct. But it's the way we can get our government back that we're supposed to have. Federated Republican government, defined and limited powers, based on the rule of law and the consent of the governed, which is nowhere in sight no matter where you look today. So that said, I'll be saying more about this as we go on, but those of you who are worried about that, there's very little cause to worry. Things will get straightened out in relatively short order, and it will be done consistent with the Constitution, not in contravention of it. And that will solve in and of itself a lot of the situations that we face today. And I'll be saying more about that in an upcoming video on the first Civil Rights Act of 1866 and the debates surrounding that. When you read some of the things that were said in these debates by men that were a hell of a lot smarter in their time, better educated, and much more true to their oath of office to preserve, protect, and defend this Constitution, it's going to become crystal clear as to what was happening and why. And, it looks like that we got outvoted there, but we didn't. I'll give you the full story on that later as to why those amendments, that act doesn't exist. The first Civil Rights Act, the Reconstruction Act, none of that war BS by Congress exists then. It doesn't exist now either. And the sooner we get rid of that, the better off we're going to be too. Trust me, I'll make a believer out of you on all of this. Thank you.